Santero Gustavo Victor Goller did not want to be an artist, but the Saints called him.
What's it like for you to be in your workroom surrounded by saints?
I love it. It's my favorite place to be. I always say that. I'm always surrounded by saints, and I really am, because in my house, of course, I have tons of saints. But in the studio, it's different in that I feel that the Santos really have a life of their own in there, because some are coming there to be repaired and fixed, and so that they can be used again for their purpose, while at other times there's santos that are in the progress of actually being made, and being created. And I think that the santos almost like understand that. And it's, in a way, they feel like they like being there. They tell me different stories. They tell me different aspects of sort of humanity. And at the different times that they existed, and the things that they did in their own lives, and the sacrifices that they made. I like being surrounded by them because I feel protected, I guess, in a way. And it was interesting that I never set out to be a santero. I never really said to myself, this is what I'm going to do as a career. As a matter of fact, I never wanted to be an artist even. Because I knew a lot of artists growing up, and I always saw how difficult it was for them. And so things just kind of happened that the saints found me.
What inspired you to pick up tools and create a santo?
What inspired me was really my uncles, who taught me how to carve and worked in conservation studios. And they were the ones that introduced me to that. But at the same time, I had my own motivation. So I'd go in there and make toys, and I was carving by the time I was 13, so I was pretty young.
What was that connection that was made when you started creating the santos, or even creating the toys in the workroom?
The connection was really a spiritual connection. I was brought up Catholic. I had an interest in saints for whatever reason. It was interesting. I had found a crucifix at a dump once when I was a little kid, and I remember rescuing it and bringing it home and hanging it over my bed. And I was just connected spiritually to that. By the time I was in high school, I was carving some of my own saints, but primarily for myself as a hobby. But I became interested because I realized that there was a whole history of saint making in New Mexico. And so at that time I was just trying to replicate them, and I would use them as gifts for friends and family, and I just enjoyed the process of it.
So do you see yourself as a storyteller?
I definitely see myself as a storyteller, because I have to have an understanding of what the saints represent and their lives. And the way that I study them, I try to bring out different aspects of that particular saint that may not be known to most people, because saints have many different sort of patronages.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you take your santos and maybe put a contemporary twist on them?
That's been just part of my growth throughout the years. Initially, I was very much a traditionalist. I did everything by hand. I mixed my own pigments. I did all these things. Used a handsaw, and eventually, as I progressed, I learned to use better machinery. And with that process, this kind of came the modernization of the santos a little bit, bringing them up to a more contemporary level where it attracts a slightly larger audience. So it may attract kids, it may attract someone who it just maybe is a pilot or someone who's interested in cars, because there may be some sort of element that's played off in that. For example, the Saint Christopher, who is known as carrying Christ on his shoulder across a large river, and that's what he did. That was his job, was to ferry people across. But because that association with the water, he's also known as patron saint of boaters, patron saint of surfers.
How does movement inform the way that you create your santos?
As I progressed with my own challenges as a carver, trying to increase my own technical ability, I started to put a lot more movement into my work. And it could be something as simple as just the wrists, twisting the wrists around, more articulation with the fingers. There are times when I just work on hair and carve different styles of hair. And I wanted to see the movement of the skeletal body underneath the gown. So you would see, a knee that sticks out or the hip that's pushed over to one side. And I became very interested in that kind of composition, which it's kind of called an S-curve composition. And so it allows me to play with my pieces a lot more according to design and composition.
Why is it important for you to continue crafting saints?
Because I feel it's, at this point, it's my duty to to really keep things moving and encouraging other artists to continue, because I don't know that's going to happen, for how long, or there may be a diminishing crowd. I'm very involved with the whole Santero community and on different boards and things like that represent the Santero artwork. And it's part of maintaining all of that, and it's in the importance of that, because the younger generation it's harder for them to get involved in it as a full-time sort of artistic venture. Again, it's very difficult, so some of the young generation might start it, but then they won't come back to it until they're older. And for me, it's more about maintaining the flow of the movement. So it's not about creating santos that are sort of repetitious in style or just sort of knockoffs of the old ones. It's more about the direction that the new santos are taking, because it speaks a little bit of a different language and a change in the culture, which is just a natural progression that we have and a natural movement. And it's been going on for so long, and the different styles and directions that have taken, that it's an important part of New Mexico history.